So it's week 2, and part of week 2 is to really come back and refine and look at the practicalities and the logistics in terms of making an idea feasible.
Everyone's put up their 3 initial ideas or proposals that we were asked to think about before we got here. They're by no means solid, refined concepts or proposals necessarily. The idea is just to get some ideas up there straight away that we can start talking about and tearing to pieces and throwing around the room.
I imagine some people have probably come here with quite fixed ideas about what they're doing, and I've got the feeling of a couple of ideas and a vague sort of notion of what the framework that might be presented in.
In terms of provocateurs, we have the lovely Paul Gazzola, who's our coordinating provocateur.
Then we'll do another pin-up, yeah, with what we've produced in that day. Then we've got like what we've thought about before we got here and what we've kind of got now after we've had a little bit of information in the air.
We spent a lot of time working with these very talented artists and designers, architects, thinkers, before they arrived to Situate, such that they're really working together, and there's a lovely narrative across week 1 and 2. So we started in week 1 with Stuart Candy, who's a futurist, and one of the reasons we wanted to do that was to have someone who's not a traditionally trained artist or designer.
Good on you guys, but you're a long way away from there. Yeah. So how does the world look from where we are here?
But someone who's a real thinker, someone who's going to have the participants really consider their place, not just in the lab, not just in their practice, but in their world.
What I'm going to ask you to do now is, the more positively you feel about the way that overarching trajectory is headed, step forward. And the more positively you feel about that, let that be reflected in how far you choose to walk forward. Everybody clear on that? Yeah. Okay, let's move. And yes, please feel free to make use of the space.
Each of the provocateurs is bringing their flavour into the mix, but they also understand the journey that we're taking these artists on.
I'm Linda Roberts, and I'm one of 10 provocateurs as part of Situate this year. The first week of the lab is what I've been plugging into, so kind of looking at how to dismantle ideas, initial concepts, and then expanding those out to kind of interrogate them, also enable other artists to provoke each other in a very non-threatening way.
I just want to know, I want to clarify about the opera. Do you have to actually be inside the car to hear it, or does it get amplified? Do you hear it resonating amongst the streets, or is it actually something that's very intimate?
Well, there's a radio element that's picked up in the car. There's an on-street element. So it's micro though.
Okay, so we've just been through a series of presentations, and it's quite interesting. I wouldn't call them presentations, I'd more say that there is a point in which we have it's kind of almost like a provocateur changeover and also a change in location. This is when the lab really shifts its pace.
We came up with some ideas at the start of the week, and now we're kind of pitching them after we've worked on them for about 2 or 3 days. So they're all still pretty raw, but I guess it's an opportunity to push them on that little bit further and see what people understand when we explain them and where the questions are, because there's still heaps of questions and still heaps of unresolved kind of elements to each work.
What we've just been through is more like an opportunity for artists to really start to gain some more detailed feedback, not only from fellow artists who are in the lab, but also some of the key stakeholders.
The other idea is that you're just kind of on this conveyor belt, and I guess I was thinking about that one in relation to WA and the mining industry, and how so people kind of would become a bit like the dirt or the rocks that's just moved in an industrial way, and perhaps they move through some sort of experiential zone.
I have been on a conveyor belt that was a scaled up sushi train. Oh, really? And it was incredible, and there's so much more to say about this because that is one part of it all. But the abstraction of the production line or the conveyor belt or whatever, I think is a great idea.
So today we had the summary and the presentation, basically a show and tell of where people's ideas have got to so far. And a lot of ideas have really changed. I think they've been influenced, the artists have been influenced by each other, as well as of course the experience of being here during Dark Mofo, the experience of meeting the festival directors, finding out more about the festivals, And then all of the activities that we had and the projects, I think, have really helped people come to a fuller understanding of their ideas.
Just take a step back, let